Thanks for tuning in to the Marvel Movie Minute.
Want to skip those pesky ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a weekly podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 5 minutes at a time. In this, our 8th season, we are looking at Thor, The Dark World. I'm Pete Wright.
I'm Matthew Fox, and today we're talking about minutes 76 through 80, which begins with Thor suffering the results of Loki's sudden but inevitable betrayal, and ends with Kurse suffering the results of Loki's sudden but inevitable betrayal. Pete, we ended last time on a cliffhanger. Oh no, Loki has betrayed Thor. Is this actually going to happen? Were you shocked? Were you surprised? Were all of your gobs, every single one of your gobs, smacked when it turned out
one after another and another again
that Loki's inevitable betrayal was actually not a betrayal of Thor, but a betrayal of Malekith and Kurse?
Yeah. So let me just present for the court. One of the things that we know about Loki from the comics is that Loki is a betrayer. Right? He's the trickster god, right? This is what he does. I've been thinking about this since we talked last week. Were we too hard on the presentation of the betrayal because of its cinematic interpretation when really we should be on board because this is actually a portrayal of Loki, the character that everybody knows is coming. The only one who was out of the loop is Malekith, and it's all okay. Are we too hard on it?
No. Next question.
Oh, okay.
No, I have a lot of positive things to say about these minutes, to be clear. I'm the one who always wants to be positive. Pete's the one who keeps dragging me into the negativity. Just
this is where we're going to go at this point in the show. Okay. Matthew's inevitable betrayal.
Look, gaslights are beautiful, okay? And I'm trying to bring them to you. But no, my point is, can you tell me two examples we have of Loki being a trickster for the good guys?
Oh no, I don't know that we have them. I mean, I don't know that we have them in any of our expressions of Loki so far in the MCU.
Right.
I think what we're talking about is is Loki the character, sort of the gestalt of Loki? Should we just be on board because maybe Taylor and crew are finally giving us the Loki we know? He's a trickster to everybody. I think the answer is no. I mean, believe me, it's a leading question. I think the answer is no. I just want it out there. I want it on the record that I tried.
And I want it on the record that rather than debate the cinematic, I'm not even going to go there.
Okay.
I'm just going to respectfully disagree and say that perhaps I'm wrong, but let's move on. Because I do think there's some parts of this portrayal that are worth talking about. First, in this, one of the things we get in this moment is as they show up, Kurse kind of leans in and talks to Malekith and speaking the Dark Elf language, says to him, this is the one I saw as the prisoner. He is the Asgardian prisoner. I think trying to set up the idea of why Malekith would believe this at first.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually goes to what you're saying, is that never mind what we in the audience know, they're trying to establish why would they believe that Loki is doing this.
Right.
But as you said, he is the god of deception. He's the trickster god. Are you telling me that Malekith did so little Oppo research? How did he not know that Loki is the trickster god?
He has been asleep on a space elf ship for thousands of years.
Yeah. So you know what I do after
when he went to sleep, there was no Oppo research, right?
So
everybody trusted each other.
When you've been asleep, not for thousands of years, but for just 8 hours, or more honestly, probably 5 to 6, but let's hope for 8. Do you wake up and go out into the world and just face the world as it is? Or do you maybe open up your phone first to see what has happened recently? And what can you learn about the world before you go out and face it?
I always try to take over a neighboring country.
I'm just saying maybe he could have asked a little bit around, about what was happening in Asgard. If nothing else, he kind of understood that Bo, his ancient rival, wasn't king anymore. It was Odin now.
Right.
But anyway, putting that aside, I will say the thing that I was a bit surprised and disappointed by is I did think the way this scene would have really worked to make it the trickster god that we're looking for is if Thor was deceived. Because, and I think I said something about this last time, that the way Thor reacts really does sell to me that Thor believes Loki is betraying him. And I guess the idea, and they kind of established this in Ragnarok a little more, is that they've done tricks like this before.
Yeah.
But to me, I think like the moment that would fit for me, the kind of idea of Loki as that trickster, is the idea that he does really trick Thor and he makes Thor believe it. And that's part of why Malekith believes it. And only for then Loki to be like, haha, don't worry about it. I got you.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. But I feel like one of the things that we got out of our last 5 minutes was that they minimized Loki's infractions in order to reestablish brotherly love. Right? And we were very upset about that. But now we're on to this 5 minutes where we have to take as foundational the rebuilding of brotherly love, right? That this is, they're a team now. They weren't before, but they are now. And I guess that's why I took this betrayal more as sort of a comic twist than a missing ingredient, because now we kind of get the fun, a little bit of a dopamine push, that the brothers are back together again. Bo and Luke Duke are back together, Cain and Abel, Thor and Loki, all the famous brothers. I don't know any other brothers. I'm an only child.
I'm not going to go into biblical scholarship. I'm not going to go into biblical scholarship. I'm not going to go into biblical scholarship. Cain and Abel don't get back together. But I hear what you're saying. I guess to me, that's part of why I'm saying what I'm saying, is that to me, for this to work, Thor and Loki have already established enough brotherly connection that they have made a plan together. And I don't think they've earned that yet. Whereas the way I'm saying it, if it had been that Loki does do something that Thor's like, oh God, I think he's going to betray me. And then it turns out, no, he's not. He's actually on your side. And then we get the things we see in these minutes where Loki saves Jane at the possible expense of himself. And Loki does this brave thing to kill Kurse, and then winds up dying because of it as well. Or at least mortally wounded, as we see. Who knows what's going to happen next? To me, those are the moments that would then build the trust. And if then Thor is like, okay, let's make a plan. Oh, I mean, you're dead, so no plans. But you know what I mean? I feel like that these moments are, there's a lot of really good things in this moments that I think would help to sell. We get to see Thor coming to trust Loki. But instead, it having that twist makes it feel like we actually have to believe it already happened.
What's interesting about this is, in order to make this work the way we get it on screen, is we have to believe that even though the brothers didn't have time to set up a trick here, that Loki's first action is something that's so familiar to Thor that he just is able to instinctively go along with it. And that's the joke, because now we have to know that at some point in history, Loki, the mischievous trickster brother, had to turn around and cut off his brother's hand or something and say, no, play along. And now that's a shorthand for them to work together. And so I totally see what you're talking about. I also can kind of see where Taylor and crew would shortcut this to get us back to the brothers playing together, because we're heavily into the third act now and we got to move this story along. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if
it is kind of funny to imagine frolicking teen Thor and Loki just constantly cutting pieces of Thor off in front of people just for the lulls.
I mean, you want to read the ancient texts of the Norse gods. That's what a lot of what you get. Yeah. not to mention often including him cutting off the hair of Thor's wife. Yes. The Lady Sif and all that. Well, okay. So all that happens. And then we build up to this great moment where Malekith is drawing the Aether out of Jane, and now Thor can use his hammer to attack the Aether. And so I guess that's the point of the plan, right? Is to get the Aether separate from Jane so that they can attack it and theoretically destroy it.
And we know somehow Malekith is able to dark elf magic it out of Jane.
Right.
That's the plan all along. Get Jane close enough to Malekith. You wonder, maybe a little, or do you, why it took Malekith so long to start dragging it out of Jane. He was just in the room with Jane like 15 minutes ago.
Right.
Don't know why he waited till now.
Here's what I think. Because if you remember, in just a minute or two, when Thor tries to destroy the Aether, and he like grabs his hammer and he points it, and there's a couple seconds of him shooting lightning at it, Malekith and his friends do nothing. So I'm guessing that they had to first go get popcorn so they would be ready to sit down and have a front row seat while Thor did that, and they have no visible reaction whatsoever.
True. I don't know why they don't do anything. It feels like they're just shocked and awed by the use of lightning in this establishment. But can I tell you about the thing that I've been worried about since we started this conversation about the Aether? Because it happens here.
Sure.
I have to start with a mindfulness sigh. We started complaining, and we have this shorthand knowledge between us about the brand book for the MCU, for Thor, for the Aether, for the Stone, not being finished yet, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly it occurred to me, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, that there was this minute coming up where Thor destroys the Aether, and what comes out of that destruction are crystals. And it hurt. It hurt me a little bit to imagine that I was all fired up about this thing when maybe in this third act, they figure out a way to turn the Aether into a crystal. And it turns out it was Thor all along. And I thought, okay, I'll be embarrassed because I was kind of upset about that the whole time. But also, it's kind of cool. It feels like a rug pull that they would get me. And so I've been looking forward to this minute of reconciliation to figure out, did they actually have this plan all along? Is this how they're going to turn it into a stone again? And I'm relieved, disheartened to say they did not.
No.
They do turn it to crystal, and then Malekith immediately turns it back to floating jelly and sucks it into his eye sockets.
So we are going to discuss physics later in this episode because I went on a deep dive into what I think is the most important thing in this episode, in this 5 minutes, if not the most important thing in this movie, which I'm going to hold on that. So stick around. Don't you go get popcorn. Actually, don't get pause and get popcorn. I think it's pretty, popcorn's
always
great.
Pause.
I'll always pause. Lots of butter though. No healthy on popcorn. Anyway. Yeah, to me, I think this is Thor. Thor is hit it with a big hammer or hit it with the lightning that your hammer shoots out of. And I don't think there's any level of, if I hit this gelatinous thing with a lightning bolt because of the physics of whatever, it will turn into crystal and then into rocks. I don't think Thor is thinking any of that. It's just, I'm going to hit it with lightning because I hit things with lightning and then they go away.
But you have to admit, it would be great if the crystals that literally fell out of the sky became the reality crystalline stone, and it was the unintentional transformation of matter from goo to stone, and it was Thor's fault all along. That would have been awesome.
Okay. I don't mean to rain on your parade. I'm horribly rain. I think I just don't understand. Like, walk me through exactly what you're trying to say here.
Okay, so there is this. So the goo is in the air, and Thor is hitting it with lightning, and there is a shot immediately after it explodes from the ground. We're in the rubble, and red crystals are falling to the ground.
Right.
Red stone. Had they stopped right there, we could have had a reality stone, but they did not stop. They reconstituted
so what you're saying is that
jelly.
The Aether was this thing, and then Thor creates the reality stone out of the Aether.
Yes.
I like that.
That's legacy MCU stuff, and they just snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
But then doesn't that change what the Infinity Stones are? Because the whole point is that the Infinity Stones are this primordial, they've existed since the Big Bang. And
you can't say it didn't exist since the Big Bang because it just changed form. It changed reality. It was goo and now it's a stone and maybe it'll be gaseous someday.
I think it was some other kind of stone I could buy into this, but the fact that it itself shapes reality, the idea that Thor and his lightning could have that much of an effect that would matter. Like, I like where you're going. We are trying so hard.
Trying hard.
And I do want to say this. I do think these minutes help solidify for me why you are so dedicated. You are on a quest, and I love Don Quixote, and so I want to help you because there is this windmill, and we're going to call the windmill the professional incompetence, if not outright disregard and disdain for the audience of the writer and director. And you have been tilting at that windmill so hard, and I think I figured out why. Damn it. Again, you got me into this rant, but I'm going to back off it just to make this point.
Okay.
If the 5-minute concept, even the minute-by-minute concept, one of the fundamental issues with it is that for the most part, scenes don't break down minute by minute.
Right.
These 5 minutes, like if you wanted to create a clip of this scene, this is the exact 5 minutes you would take. You might take like 5 seconds of the minute beforehand and 5 more seconds the minute next. But really, this is the perfect 5 minutes. And that's not the first time this has happened. And so I just want to kind of make some acknowledgement of Thor, the Dark World's creators may well have had the minute-by-minute concept in mind because they gave us some very good 5-minute chunks. And so I want to give you a chance to say, if that is why you are holding a torch for these two people who, because I will salute that accomplishment. They got out of bed and put their shoes on, and I want to applaud them for that.
I feel like there's a draft of the script that's actually written in 5-minute chunks. It's like a blessed podcast gift.
It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. So
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, this is, I mean, I think we're transitioning into, in terms of what's happening in the minute, right? We get Malekith, he sucks the stuff out, he gets it in his face. He's now very powerful. Thor and Loki, we have the exchange. Loki now. Loki releases the illusion magic. Thor now has his armor on because it was hidden before with illusion. And now they're ready to fight. Fighting ensues. Loki is surrounded by a bunch of red shirts, and he begins to go stabby on them. Thor gets cursed, and they have their battle. And there is some, I think, satisfying stuff in here. First of all, that Kurse is actually someone who can disrupt Thor and Mjolnir. That demonstrates his power. I thought that was cool. Use of the Icelandic
fight scene
scenery.
Where the hammer that can defeat anything comes back to Thor, gonna hit Kurse, and Kurse just knocks it aside. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that is establishing the power of Kurse. I get this now.
Yes. Yeah. So all of that part, I mean, if we're into it for the fighting, it's fine. Is it a real high point in stunt fight choreography? I don't think so. I think mostly it's an appetizer to get us to the next big visual effects sequence, which is the implosion bomb, the black hole grenade.
Right.
And that's where you lost your mind.
I did not lose my mind. I did a deep dive. I got sucked into the black hole. And we'll discuss that in a minute. But first, I just want to say, like I imagine a lot of people, I properly see fight scenes of all kinds through the lens of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, as you do.
I do think that this helps to fully more establish that Thor is a barbarian and Loki is an illusion rogue. Because the way he's fighting, it's all like quick movement. It's all dexterity and not strength. It's stabbing
with
in the
dagger.
Back with 2 daggers, I think one in each hand at one point. It's really fun to watch. Like, he is a good fighter, and Thor's a good fighter, and their fighting styles, he's good at kind of group. He's good at like tanking, not tanking, but he's good at taking on like 5 or 6 level 1 guys, while Thor's going to take the one, big boss. So that was just, I just want to underline like that lens of seeing it. That was a fun scene to watch.
I'm glad you did. I think that's it is a noble pursuit, and maybe that's what Taylor and company were doing all along, is just preparing for us a D&D reference.
How much are they paying you? Because at this point, that's the only thing I can believe. And why am I not getting a cut? I will edit out all the critique. My integrity, if your integrity can be bought, my integrity can be bought as well. But here's the thing. You know what cannot be bought? No matter the billion and trillions of dollars we try to spend?
What?
Black hole grenades.
Really?
But let's talk
You're telling
about
me that technology doesn't exist right now?
Well, it sort of does. Let's dive deep. Okay, so we see these black hole grenades. We saw them before, and for some reason, I don't think they really just clicked for me until these 5 minutes. And probably a big part of that's because here we see them not just like destroying random guys and removing a throne from and creating an emptiness in a scene that I don't have the cinematographic eyes to see, but that Pete, you did, and I applaud you for that. But here they are the thing that defeats Kurse. And we'll talk about the scene where how Loki kind of sacrifices himself in a bit. But I think that's what it got me thinking about them and got me wondering, like, what else do we know about black hole grenades? So I want to say just a couple things about them in this world, a couple things about them in the larger sort of media world, and then some about them in the real world. And please jump in when you can. Otherwise, this is going to be a very long and convoluted monologue.
Oh, so, I look forward to it. I have nothing to contribute. Do go on.
Did you know that black hole grenades do show up in another part of the MCU?
No. Where do they show up?
You want to guess where they do show up?
Is it Spider-Man?
Yes. So a few of them wind up in London, I guess, and the battle we're going to see later.
Yep.
And the department, there's a governmental department, I think, of damage reduction that is formed to sort of start looking into alien technology and things like that. They find a couple of them. Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, the main antagonist of Spider-Man Homecoming, steals some of them and then sends them out to be sold on the black market by his crew member, Jackson Bryce. And it's just a throwaway line where he mentions here's things that you could have used. So remember that they are in the MCU because we're going to come back to that when we talk about the physics of them and what they could do.
Okay.
I do want to mention that they're not, as far as I know, and Pete, tell me if you figured out anything about this, but all of my research was that they are a creation of the MCU. They do not exist in comic books.
I don't believe they exist in the comic books. I don't know. But, there's a lot of fantastical stuff in the comics. So who knows?
Also
maybe.
True. They have been mentioned in comic books since they came out, particularly in a Spider-Man comic book, as well as I think a comic novelization of this movie, but that's it. They have appeared, however, in a number of other video games. Mass Effect 2, people remember the M490 Blackstorm and the Reaper Black Star. Both of those, instead of them being grenades, they're projectiles that can be fired and they create a black hole. The Reaper Black Star, of course, creates a much larger one. Half-Life 2 and Lost Planet are also other video games that have similar weapons. Now, here's my question, Pete. Do you think a black hole weapon is theoretically possible?
I'm gonna say probably yes, or this conversation wouldn't be going where I think it's going.
So you're more correct than people would think. Scientific American, a well-regarded scientific journal, just as I was doing a search, I was seeing mostly comic book this, video game that, and then I saw this article with a title, How to Build a Black Hole Bomb.
No.
Because not only is a black hole bomb theoretically possible, but scientists have built a miniaturized version of one.
What?
However, here's where we get into some technicalities, because we have to understand what is a black hole bomb. How would you explain what the black hole bomb in this movie is doing?
It's on, I would say it's probably not detonation, on implosion. It sucks in the mass of items immediately in its sphere, which is practically limited, which is why I think a black hole bomb probably wouldn't be feasible, because they don't stop, I think is what physics say, is they don't stop, can't stop, won't stop.
Black hole party, and ain't no party like a black hole party because a black hole party don't stop. Exactly.
That's right.
So there's another thing that's happening as part of a black hole, which is, and if you're a theoretical physicist, please write in and tell me how wrong I am. We'll happily have you on an episode because it means we don't have to talk about the movie. But But one of the things that's happening is that not like particles are breaking down at the very base level as they're being sucked into the black hole. That's releasing an incredible amount of energy. And it's what's referred to as super radiance. And just using a metal canister and spinning it and doing some things with it with mirrors, they've been able to replicate this super mirror effect. And so the energy that a black hole is releasing could itself form a bomb, and that is referred to by scientists as a black hole bomb. And so that they are kind of working on. And it's probably not going to ever be theoretically possible beyond just a like little firework in a lab, but someone's working on it somewhere. So
why do you want to make one of come on.
Apparently we can learn, I think it's primarily to learn more about black holes and to learn more about energy, but it does allow respected scientific journals, which are currently under attack, to help defend their legacy of not being frivolous and of being serious scientific journals, that they publish an article with the URL tag, "How to Build a Black Hole Bomb." But as
SEO
you said,
friendly for the trolls. Good.
The actual black hole grenade that we see in the movie is an implosion grenade. It is using a black hole, creating a singularity for a moment in time to suck everything around it into it. Have you ever in your life, Pete, created something like this?
That also feels like a leading question, but I'm going to say with an irrational amount of confidence, no, I have not.
You are, I believe, incorrect. Have you ever been drinking a bottle of soda and then closed the top on and like felt it like kind of like compress in your hand?
Yeah.
And then you close it pretty quickly afterwards, and then you try to like squeeze it so it pops back to its original shape, and it won't?
Uh-huh.
That's because you've created an implosion effect. You've basically like, there's less air in there, and so the insides of that bottle or can are being sucked inside of it. Yes,
I could do it right now.
Pete is going to do it right now, which makes great radio.
I'm not going to do it right now, but I could.
One day we're going to be known more as a YouTube, and then a podcast, in which case we will do it, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Fans, go to YouTube if you want to see Pete create an implosion grenade. But the point is, that's the basic idea of it, is that you suck all the air out of a space, you create a vacuum, and then everything else is pulled into that vacuum. There's been a lot of theoretical discussion about how to do this, because of course there has been. And people have talked about, like, could you do it by teleporting matter out of a particular space? Which, if teleportation becomes possible, maybe it's possible. But of course, the thing that most people want to try to do it with is by creating a minor black hole. Here's where we get to our favorite, happiest piece of physics, the Schwarzschild radius. Yes, this is how deep I went. So here's the thing about black holes. A black hole exists by basically taking a huge amount of mass and shrinking it down to a tiny, tiny little space. And thus, that mass is so much denser and thicker that it has a gravitational pull far stronger than anything you would think, and creates these radiuses, the Schwarzschild radius, as it's called, and that's the kind of the radius we see. That what do you think that radius is in this movie? Maybe 4 feet across, 5 feet across, 3 feet across.
Sure, yeah,
right, something like that. So, how big a radius do you think it would be if you took the entire mass of the Earth and squeezed it down to a marble?
I mean, I don't know, because everything I'm hearing is from is now like, oh, when you compress things, the mass stays the same. Mm-hmm. So is it a mass effect? No, look what I did.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it a mass effect, meaning the S radius would be larger than you would expect, or that it would be much, much smaller than you would expect?
It's much smaller. To give you an idea of just how big a black hole, like black holes have S radiuses of light years.
Yes.
And so to give you an idea, if you took the Earth and squeezed it down to a marble that weighed the amount of the Earth, so that's how much the grenade would have to weigh, it would have a Schwarzschild radius of 1 centimeter.
Oh, so now we're getting to the point where if we wanted an implosion black hole bomb to suck Kurse in, it would have to be, well, first of all, larger, or we're sucking Kurse effectively through an airline window.
Right. Yeah. One of these two. But it's probably not going to suck him through if it's not, big enough to begin with.
Yeah.
wow, people are going to create GIFs of this, and the things we're saying, take them totally out of context. But the other thing that happens is that they're not stable because of what we were talking about before about the energy that's resulted is what's often referred to as Hawking radiation, because Stephen Hawking is the one who discovered it.
I know that guy.
And one of the theoretical ideas they had is that you can have these microscopic or like miniature black holes, but that they wouldn't last for very long. They would last for just like a second because all of the things in them would get released through this Hawking radiation. And of course, Hawking radiate, like that is still energy radiating out. Remember the other kind of black hole bomb we tried to create. And again, to give you an idea of how much power we're talking about, for that same black hole about the size of 1 centimeter, when the energy is released, like when the hole breaks up about half a second later, it would be the equivalent of thousands of nuclear bombs. So,
okay.
So you need to hold a grenade that weighs about 1,000 Earths and then have this black hole. The point of all of this is it's not really theoretically possible.
Look, what I saw is Loki needed to get Jane out of the way and moved her about 8 feet, and that was enough.
Yes. That is another part of this that doesn't seem to make sense, is that the gravity, as you know, stops dead and goes from 100 to 0 at a certain point in space.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works. And then the last thing is what you said at the very beginning, which is that as more mass is sucked into a black hole, into a singularity, that's more mass for it now. And so its gravitational pull expands.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you suck something the size of a Kurse or a throne into a black hole, congratulations, you now have a bigger black hole. And if it is not destroyed by the Hawking radiation effect, which it probably will be, but if it's not, eventually it becomes a black hole that's just going to destroy the dark world.
I'm so glad scientists are working on this.
Right?
I mean, confidence.
You know?
Okay.
But,
well,
do you really think you could have properly understood? Do you think you
Yeah.
could have properly appreciated this movie without knowing about Schwarzschild radiuses, and Hawking radiation?
No, of course not. I'm deeply relieved that you went down this particular path. The other thing that you didn't address, and I think it's because scientifically it's not a concern, but one of the things we notice in here is the vortex of wind. Everything's really windy around this thing. And so much so that Loki is sucked in by his feet. And I don't think, it seems to me that this is a combination of some sort of tornado-like vortex also,
Right.
which is, my understanding is largely scientifically irrelevant too. Visual effects may look cool. And I will say, from the visual effects perspective, you take all the science out of it, the final destruction of Kurse is cool. I am on board for that.
To be clear, for me, this isn't a critique of it. This is kind of awesome, and I love watching it, and I wanted to therefore dive deep. And I thought it was really interesting, even though it's completely irrelevant. But if we're going to look at every minute of this awful movie, let's talk about some interesting things.
Yeah. I'm relieved that we got to it in this minute, too, because, I mean, we could have talked about it at the disappearance of the throne, which is less interesting. Yeah. This is a beautiful melange of this creature, this practical costume, this practical makeup effect, and visual effects working together to disintegrate this thing and fold it into space. And I think it looks really good. So whatever we think of S radii and Hawking radiation, it's cool.
And I want to talk more about what actually happens there, because I think it's an interesting character moment for Loki and what he does. But I want to ask one last question. So we've established that a singularity can destroy pretty much anything. That's the whole point. And it is powerful enough to suck Kurse in and Kurse in, and there's just nothing he can do about it. What would happen if you threw a black hole grenade at Thanos?
The producers would appreciate it if you don't ask complicated questions.
It's why, to me, the fact that it appears in Spider-Man is so interesting, because this is one of those, you know, that there's that meme of, if the characters make this decision, then you cut right to the credits and the movie ends, because that just solves it. And this is absolutely one of those technologies that's introduced that would fix everything.
Yeah.
But if they're all destroyed with the Dark Elves, then okay, we don't have them. So we have to beat Thanos the other way.
Right. But they aren't.
Doctor Strange and all the different thousands of iterations he looked at couldn't see, oh, let's go get those things that are sitting with the U.S. government and just throw one of those at the guy.
Yeah, there's this moment, this retcon moment where, it's the end of Endgame where Doctor Strange is looking at Tony and Tony's looking at Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange's his finger is going up to indicate this is the one path where we might win. And I kind of want him to also raise a second finger. I mean, there is the one more that I forgot to mention.
It could have been. This is what could have
been. All right.
So anyway, what do you think it says about Loki that we get to see him pretty selflessly knock Jane out of the way, not jump with her for some reason, but stay standing? And so put aside the dumb choreography, he makes the sacrificial move to try and save Jane, and even though it hurts himself.
Let's do the thought experiment the other way. What would it say about Loki if he didn't?
That he's Loki. Because I don't think we would, I think you would have had to show us him what it is kind of, he comes out of nowhere to do it. So you'd have to see him watch her being almost killed and then have focus on his face for a second and then have him not do it. And I think for that to happen, it would just feel especially after, like I said, I don't feel like we've earned the trust between those two yet. If you gave it to us, it would just be oh, it's Lucy and Charlie Brown in the football. Thor's an idiot again. He had no reason to trust Loki again. Loki does what Loki does again.
But I don't think this is about Thor at this point. I don't think what Loki does for Jane is about Thor. I think it's about Frigga. I think Loki knew that Frigga was fond of Jane, and was protective of Jane, and Loki was a mama's boy. Loki was carrying baggage for mom and protected Jane as a result.
I guess I don't think I was thinking that it was just specifically about Thor. I think it was more just about Loki being willing to make the sacrificial play. The thing that Captain America talks about, because I think it's probably part of that. But he also does save Thor in a minute. We'll talk about in a second. I think it's probably part of that. I think it's probably part of what he couldn't do for Frigga. It's probably a lot of that all wrapped up together.
And it is a healthy part of our Doyleist machine reminding us that we're Team Thor Loki now. For the rest of the movie, we're Team Thor Loki.
See, and that's where I think, I guess maybe this moment meant a lot more for me, because this is the moment where I become Team Thor Loki, is seeing him do that. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I see that something has changed.
Okay.
And I wish if you had put this moment before that, I feel like now after this moment, them joking around as brothers is earned. And if you flip those two moments, I think I would have liked them both much more.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, from a plot perspective, that's functionally impossible, I think, because we have to move this through, but give us something to indicate that they're comrades again before the save.
Right. I don't think, because we're going to have one more big confrontation with Malekith. Well, I guess Loki's dying now, but I think you would have definitely written this in a different way where this scene happens. Maybe this scene happens during that first fight when they're just first escaping or something. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could do it.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's get into his other play where Kurse is beating the crap out of Thor, and to me, very symbolically, but also helping to set up a kind of cool death scene. Loki doesn't do his sneak up with daggers move. He somehow has grabbed a honking big sword and he stabs Kurse all the way through with a sword. Kurse turns around, kind of laughs it off, grabs Loki and impales him on the same sword.
Yes. The embrace.
Yeah.
Okay. He does. And that is a, shocking moment, I guess. Is it a shocking moment given the number of rug pulls we've already gotten around Loki's tricks? Do you believe at this point that Loki is going to die?
See, here's the thing. You keep not believing in this movie, but I'm with it with these minutes. I did believe it. It feels to me like I don't want to keep using that metaphor, but Charlie Brown has kicked the field goal. Him saving Jane is such a different moment. it feels a little cliched and trite to have him die immediately afterwards. And of course, I think I know that death for an Asgardian is like, who the heck knows what that actually means. It does seem to me, if nothing else, like he's going to have to be rushed away from, deep medical care. Like, it's not that I'm convinced he's going to die, but I am convinced that he is really stabbed and he's really in mortal danger.
I want to say, like, I'm with you on that. And we're going to talk more about this because it is central to next week's minutes. But I just want to plant the flag that what we see in this transition, in Loki's death, in Thor's reaction, is heightened to the point of melodrama in a way that works in the moment, but in the arc of the film and in Loki's arc does not. And that's I think a legit challenge that these filmmakers have to reckon with, particularly when they're working together across movies, across properties. It is legitimate. And I don't want to say that if I were in the moment, I would have done anything different, because it's a big, powerful moment.
Right.
And I just think it is melodrama that comes with a cost. With great power comes great responsibility.
And I guess I wonder if maybe I'm liking this a lot more than you are, in part because of the 5-minute format. Because I think you're right in all these larger pictures, but in this moment when I haven't had to watch everything else before and after it, I'm just watching these 5 minutes, it hits me. I think it's possible that if I'd watched the rest of the movie and just gotten punched in the face by the dumb again and again and again and again and again and again, and one more time again, that I would have at some point been that because I don't remember having this feeling when I watched the movie as a whole. Either of the times I've watched the movie, 3 times I've watched the movie as a whole. But in this time watching these 5 minutes, it definitely affected me. So maybe it's just I'm watching them in isolation.
Do you think there's something to it that your defenses are weakened because you're a new parent? Your emotional defenses. Are you just a big sap now, is what I'm wondering.
I cry at Hallmark commercials. I've been a big sap all of my life.
From day one.
Yeah, no, I've always been a big sap. And yes, I mean, so here's an honest thing. This is going to be very different, but I think spoilers are out. It's been far enough. The Superman movie that came out, there's a protracted scene about protecting a baby. I didn't feel myself being like, oh my God, now that I'm a parent, I understand that. I just felt like, oh, now that I'm a parent, I'm aware of how much people are trying to manipulate my emotions because I'm a parent. F you. Like, I did not have that effect. So no, I mean, I think about things differently, but I don't think things emotionally hit me any differently. Especially because this moment isn't about fathers and sons and things like that,
Right. No, there'll be those moments. There will be. There will be. All right.
Yes, Yoda.
Hey, I think the next 5 minutes, there's less punching, but more sorrow, and we're going to talk all about it. And don't forget, in case you were worried that we weren't going to have anything to pick apart next time, Jane gets a cell signal on the Dark World.
Oh boy. Just
leave it
I'm
hanging.
going to go a deep dive into cell phones and alternate dimensions. No, I'm not. I can only do this once every 10 years. But if my physics professor could have heard me through this, I think they would have been very proud.
Hell, I'm very proud.
Well,
so proud.
Thanks, Dad.
Means nothing,
thanks,
but
there you go.
Yeah, doesn't mean anything. Hey, thank you everybody for hanging out with us for these 5 minutes. This was a fun one. I admit it. It's the black hole bomb. Made it fun.
This is a great movie. We had fun these 5 minutes like we do every 5 minutes.
I like that we have this weekly chance to reevaluate our choices. It's great.
I've decided that all of my negative feelings about this movie have been sucked in by the singularity of these 5 minutes. So they're just not escaping the Schwarzschild radius anymore.
That is a fantastic practice. I'm going to try that.
Let's see.
All right.
Actually, the movie sucks.
Thanks for hanging out. Definitely go check out all of Matthew's shows at The Ethical Panda and at truestory.fm. We've got all of them listed there. And you can find me. I'm all over truestory.fm. You don't need any more of me. But if you want it, there it is. Would love to invite you to check out some of my other shows. Headstone, ADHD Podcast. I've got a bunch of stuff going on. If
you are like me, an ADHD kid who finds it hard to figure out what you want to do, start with the ADHD Podcast. It's great.
And plug, just as we record this, Matthew was a guest on the ADHD Podcast and was terrific. So
future co-host. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.